songbook. It was For Me He Died. get the hang of, because it doesn't start right on the first beat. But I like the words to that song. Why leave a heavenly mansion? Why would he do that? And then, why choose a simple stall? Why wander poor and homeless, the King and Lord of all? Why heal a lonely beggar? Why cause the blind to see? The light of all creation shining there for me. And then the chorus tells why. It was for me he died. For me he cried. For me he shed his blood upon a tree. It was for me he came. And of course, as you are singing that, you are also saying me because he died for you too. He cried for you too. He shed his blood for you too. It was for you he came. It was for you his shame. For me, oh praise his name. It was for me. The King who came from heaven to the cry, there is no room! Now must lay his weary body in a cold and borrowed tomb. But what's the next phrase? But the grave, it would not hold him. Death lost its victory. The risen Lord of glory, living now for me. It was for me he cried. For me he died. For me he shed his blood upon a tree. It was for me he came. For me his shame. For me. Oh, praise his name. It was for me. Do you understand that? Do you realize what he went through for you? Well, we're going to go to Proverbs again tonight. We're going to kind of take a little bit of a different approach this time. We have been going through, not quite verse by verse, but almost verse by verse. But now we're going to start jumping around a little bit. So I'm going to try to involve some of you a little bit to do some reading for me. But let's begin in Proverbs 21. Proverbs 21. Where we'll begin tonight. We're going to talk about the scorner or the mocker. And look at how Solomon portrays the scorner in the book of Proverbs tonight. One of the recurring themes of Proverbs is this contrast or this choice between wisdom and folly. Of course, we've been talking about what we think we ought to choose, right? We think we ought to choose the way of wisdom. But ultimately, there are people out there, unfortunately, there are people out there that choose the way of folly. And we're going to look at those people tonight. Solomon gives us some vivid descriptions, with the idea, I assume, of trying to convince his son, that's not the way that you want to go, son. Okay? You don't want to do that. You don't want to be like that foolish person tonight. So, Proverbs 21, we'll start in verse 24. Proud and haughty scorner is his name, who dealeth in proud wrath. So what does it mean to be a scorner? Scorner, we could use the word scoffer, we could use the word mocker. They're all basically the same. What's it mean to be a mocker or a scorner?
It means you hold yourself up and put other people down.
You hold yourself up and you put other people down. Okay, all right. So what else? What does a scorner do? What's a mocker do? What kind of things does he get involved with?
He's proud of everything he does.
He's proud of everything he does.
Everything that everybody else does.
Yeah. He can do it really well, and everybody else can't do it at all. You know, it's everything that he can do well, he puts other people down. Oh, I can run this. You know, he can run the 100-yard dash in however many seconds, and you can't even come close because you're slow. Okay? So he's a mocker. He elevates himself, puts himself up on a pedestal. All right? What motivates somebody to be that way? What motivates somebody to be a scorner or a mocker? Pride. Pride. They feel really good about themselves. Their self-image is really good, or at least it appears so on the outside. Sometimes pride can be hiding a lot of pain. But this scorner, this mocker, typically exudes a lot of pride. So, how does mocking and scorning and that kind of thing, how does that reflect this trait of pride? How do they work together?
Say that again.
How does the trait of pride, how does that work with mocking and scorning? What kind of things go on with that? What's the thinking behind that person that is proud and is mocking? What's he thinking about?
Well, if I could make somebody lower than myself, then I'm up here.
Okay.
They want attention.
They might want attention. Okay. Might want attention. They want to feel good about themselves. You know, sometimes it's not a high self-esteem. It's a low self-esteem that brings about that pride because they want to feel good about themselves. They want to feel like they're doing what's right, doing the better job because they don't feel secure. They don't feel like they know what's going on or how to handle the situation. So they come out with all this mockery and pride to try to elevate themselves and make themselves feel better and cut other people down. Proverbs 24, verse 9. Can somebody turn to that and read that for us, please? Proverbs 24, verse 9. Who will do that for us? Hannah?
The thought of foolishness is sin, and the scorner is an abomination to men.
All right, so how do people generally respond to scorners, according to this verse? The thought of foolishness is sin, and the scorner is an abomination to men. How do people normally respond to a scorner?
They don't like it.
They don't like him. Yeah, he's an abomination. What's that word abomination mean?
Hate.
Hate? Yeah? Yeah. He's like the abominable snowman, right? Hated by everybody. Okay? So he's an abomination. All right? So that's how people respond. How about God? How does God respond to a scorner? Somebody read for me Proverbs 3, verse 34. Proverbs 3, verse 34. Raise your hand when you get it so we don't have a bunch of people. Okay, Anna, join nice and loud. You didn't know we were having sword drills tonight, did you? Go ahead.
Surely he scorneth the scorner, but he giveth grace unto the lowly.
All right. Surely he scorneth the scorners, but he giveth grace unto the lowly. So how does God respond to a scorner?
He scorns them.
What does that mean when we say God scorns a scorner? What does that mean? What does it mean when we say God scorns the scorner? Well, what does it mean to scorn? Look down upon someone. So what's God's attitude of the scorner? Yeah, you're not near as big as you think you are. He looks at you and he kind of says, whatever. You think you're big and mighty and strong and all that. Whatever. He kind of turns the tables on them and mocks them, is what it says. He scorneth the scorners. All right. Proverbs 15, verse 12. Proverbs 15, verse 12. All right, go ahead.
A scorner loveth not one that reproveth him, neither will he go into the wise.
All right, a scorner loveth not one that reproveth him, neither will he go into the wise. So, How do mockers or scorners respond to correction according to this verse?
Don't want anything to do with it.
They don't want anything to do with it.
You're wasting your time.
You're wasting your time. You're casting your pearls before swine. Okay? Why is that? Why do they act like that?
Because they already think that they know everything, so you can't teach them.
Good point. They already think they know everything. Remember, what's the problem that scorners have? Pride. Okay? I'm this big. I know everything. I don't need you to tell me anything. Okay? I'm smarter than you are, and you're coming to tell me this. I have a college education.
They only always have an answer. Whatever you say.
Yep. Well, let me tell you why I responded that way. It's because of this, and this. That's why I did it. See? Nothing wrong with the way I responded. It's perfectly fine. I'm perfectly justified in my speech. That's how mockers respond. They don't want you to correct them. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to have anything to do with it. Because they're scorners. They scorn correction. They scorn rebuke. So let's think about another verse. Proverbs 29 and verse 8. Micah, can you read Proverbs 29, verse 8 for us, please?
Scornful men bring a city into a snare, but wise men turn away wrath.
All right. Now we need to dissect this verse a little bit. Okay? What do we often see in the Proverbs when we have a verse? Well, here we've got a colon right in the middle of the verse. Okay, so what does that colon tell us? What does that colon tell us? Two sentences put together. All right, so the first sentence, scornful men bring a city into a snare. The next sentence, but wise men turn away wrath. So what do we have here? We have a contrast, right? We have a contrast. We're contrasting scornful men and wise men. So what is the contrast?
Bad versus good.
What's that?
Bad versus good.
Well, okay, bad versus good. Okay, but how does that play into bring a city into a snare? What? It's kind of an interesting way to translate this passage. Bring a city into a snare. What does that mean?
It sounds like they're stirring up trouble so that people are fighting against each other.
Ooh, they're stirring up trouble. That's a good way to say it. Okay, all right. Anybody else? If they're stirring up trouble, and then wise men do what? Turn away wrath. Okay, you see how those two play off of one another? The one stirs up trouble. The other one, what do they do? They turn away wrath. All right? So the scorners, the one we're focusing on tonight, that bring into a snare, you could, according to my Hebrew dictionary, you can translate that set aflame. Set aflame. You know, you've heard about the lighting the fox's tails and sending them into the cornfield and setting the cornfield ablaze. Okay, well this is like the scorner. The scorner goes into the city and he sets the city aflame. He causes trouble. He brings the city into a snare. He causes lots of problems. One definition is speak words that slander and insult. He's got a mouth that runs in the wrong direction. So this scorner brings a city into a snare. So why is this something that a scorner might do? Why would a scorner go into a city and cause trouble?
It just makes me think of like in one of your apartment complexes where you have a tenant that just goes around and kind of mouths off everywhere they go and starts inciting riots basically everywhere they go and has a way of making everybody mad. They just whoever they talk to, they have a way of getting everybody they talk to mad and inciting anger.
Yep. Yep. I don't know whether you remember, I gave this illustration a while back. I was talking with a lady that was moving from an apartment complex to my apartment complex, and I had taken over some paperwork for her to sign. Well, she had just gotten into conflict with another neighbor. Well, we're standing out on the patio there, out on the front porch, and this other neighbor was still over there, you know, maybe 100 yards away. Well, you could hear that neighbor out of the corner, you know, out of your corner of your ear, over your shoulder. Neighbor standing over there. Yeah, she better not be coming back over here. That's right. I don't call the cops. That's right. She come over here, I'm going to smack her down. Lazy woman. Just going on and on and on. And it was all that this lady could do to focus on what I was talking about. And I had to tell her a couple times, look, paperwork. We're doing paperwork right now. Ignore her. All this lady was trying to do was mock her and get her riled up. And of course, what's that do when she's got 3 or 4 people standing around her while she's over there running her mouth? What's that do to these people all around? Well, it just stirs up the fight. And what do they start to do? They start doing the same thing, you know, and just going on and on. And it just kind of explodes after a while. So, understanding all this, how should mockers be treated and why? Anybody have a verse in Proverbs that comes to mind since we're in the book of Proverbs?
The only thing I can think of is get far from them.
Okay, Proverbs 22:10. Proverbs 22, verse 10. Somebody have that one? Micah?
Cast out scorn and contention shall go out. Yea, strife and reproach shall cease.
Okay, so what do we do with the scorner?
Cast them out.
Give him the boot. Whoop! You're out of here, buddy. Get out of here. You take away the fire, the fuel for the fire, and the fire dies down. Okay? Cast out the scorner, and contention shall go out. Yea, strife and reproach shall cease. So how many of us want to be a scorner today? Good. I'm glad to see that. Obviously, God doesn't take a very nice view of people who are scorners. People who mock other people. All right? That is not the approach that Solomon is wanting his son to take. The route that he was wanting him to take. It is not what God is encouraging here. Cast out the scorner, and contention shall go out. Yea, strife and reproach shall cease. All right, so as we continue on here with the futility of folly, I didn't give you the title. The futility of folly is this portion of the study. So we talked about the scorner. Now, let's talk about the simple. The simple. What are 2 of the simple person's problems? Well, first of all, maybe I should ask, what is a simple person? Biblically speaking, what is a simple person? Someone is simple, what is it?
Not wise.
Okay, not wise. Why not, though? Why are they not wise?
They don't know.
Because they don't know. So another word that we use in English is naive. They don't know because they've never been taught. All right, if you've never been around a car before, and all of a sudden somebody just gifts you a car, you are simple in the ways of a car because you've never been around a car. You've never had the opportunity to learn. Yes, you have to change your oil every once in a while. You need to rotate your tires. When the gas gauge gets low, you need to fill it up. You are simple in the ways of cars. It's not a cut down or a slam or anything like that. It just means that you are inexperienced. You are naive. So, what are their problems? What's the problem with a simple person? Proverbs 14:15 gives us one. Proverbs 14:15. Enjoy. Read nice and loud.
The simple believeth every word, but the prudent man looketh well to his going.
Yes. So the simple believeth every word. What does that mean?
They're gullible.
They're gullible. They're gullible. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, did you know that if you take your sock and you pull it over your head, people won't know who you are? Oh, really? Wait, let me try that. They're gullible. Yeah, they believe every word. All right? They believe every word. Proverbs 22:3. Proverbs 22:3. Let's see if we can find somebody that hasn't read yet. Okay? Putting the pressure on some of the rest of you. Linda.
A prudent man foreseeth the evil and hides himself, but the simple pass on and are punished.
Okay. So a prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. So what's the simple's problem in that verse?
They don't plan ahead.
Okay, they don't plan ahead. Okay. Micah?
They don't recognize signs of danger.
They don't recognize signs of danger. Remember, they're simple. They're naive. They're gullible. They don't recognize signs of danger. Okay? Oh, it's okay. You can walk over there next to that cliff as you're walking down through the Hocking Hills. It's okay. It's no problem at all. It's not that loose. Okay, so the prudent man says, no, thank you. I'm going to stay 20 feet away from that edge. But the simple man walks over to the edge. Oh, this is really no, says he falls down the cliff. Okay, because he didn't know any better. All right? For some reason, nobody told him when you get next to the edge of the cliff, you might fall off. Okay? But that's the simple person. He is uneducated. He doesn't understand. All right? Now let's go to another one who Solomon uses for those who scorn the wisdom of God. The fool. The fool. Okay? The fool. So let's talk about some characteristics of a fool. What is a fool? What about in the area of discipline? How does a fool respond to discipline? Proverbs 1, verse 7. Proverbs 1, verse 7. Somebody who hasn't read yet.
The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction.
Okay, so how does a fool respond to discipline?
You can't give it to him.
You can't give it to him. He despises it. Okay? He despises wisdom and instruction. You tell him something, hey, I have a way that will make your life so much easier if you just do it this way. I don't want to hear it. I know what I'm doing. Forget it. That's what God calls a fool. Okay? You're not teachable. You don't want people to instruct you. Again, that goes along with the pride, right? Goes right along with that scorner, that mocker. He's proud. He thinks he already knows better. Okay? Sounds like some teenagers. I know better. I know how to drive this car. I know how to do this. I know how to do that. I know how to go get a job. Leave me alone. I can do it. Or like a toddler. I do it myself. Okay? All right? That's kind of foolish behavior. What they don't realize is they don't know how to do it. Okay? They need some instruction. But because they're acting like a fool, they despise wisdom and instruction. All right. How about judgment? And I'm not talking about judgment like you're guilty, but judgment like, is this a good idea or is it not a very good idea? Let's go to Proverbs chapter 12 and verse 11. Proverbs chapter 12, verse 11. Shannon, do you have that one?
Yeah. He that filleth his land shall be satisfied with bread, but he that followeth vain persons is void of understanding.
All right, so which one is the fool here in this passage? He that tilleth his land, or he that followeth vain persons? Anna Joy.
He that followeth vain persons.
All right, he that followeth vain persons. So tell me what that means. He follows vain persons. Remember to think about the context. Micah?
They're chasing after conspiracies instead of working.
Okay, they're chasing after something. But think about the parallelism. Is it conspiracies or is it something else? Because remember the first part, he that tilleth his land shall be satisfied with bread. If he's tilling the land, what's he doing? He's planting crops. And what's he going to get from his crops? He's going to have food from his crops. Okay, so and he's going to have food, and what else might he be able to do with those crops? Sell them. Okay, so he that followeth vain persons is void of understanding. So what's the fool trying to do? Get rich quick. There you go. There you go. I think that's a good way to explain that. He that followeth vain persons is void of understanding. All right, so he's the one that's pulling out the Wealth magazine, and he's looking at the advertisements in the back. You can be a millionaire in 20 days. And he picks up his phone and he calls them. Is he a millionaire in 20 days? No, in fact, he's probably a lot less wealthy than he was when he picked up the phone. He probably sold his car so he could pay this $10,000 to this person. Who's the millionaire at the end of 20 days? The person that he called, because he just got sent $20,000 or whatever it is. Yeah. Fools despise wisdom and instruction, and then we see that he followeth vain persons, and that means he's void of understanding. Well, it's because he despises wisdom and instruction, right? He didn't say, hey, does this look like a good deal to you? He didn't look at the other scriptures that say in a multitude of counselors there is safety. No, he says, I can do it myself. And he opens up his mouth, I'm going to call this person, and he calls them, and lo and behold, now he's less rich than he was when he started. All right, Proverbs 14:12. Proverbs 14:12. Linda.
14:12.
Yes.
There is a way which seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death.
All right, there is a way which seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. How does this verse fit in with our fellow that wants to get rich quick?
The way he's doing it seems right to him then, but it ends up leading to his downfall.
Yeah. Yeah, this looks like a good deal. This looks like an amazing opportunity. You know, he went to this meeting at the Holiday Inn the other night and heard somebody stand up and say, I have the most amazing opportunity to present to you tonight. I can't tell you how much I have been blessed by this opportunity that I'm going to share with you tonight. And by the way, this opportunity only costs you $2,000. End of this night, if you want to pay me $2,000, I will help you become a millionaire. Okay? Wow, that sounds pretty good. But because he didn't go and talk to his multitude of counselors, he despised wisdom and instruction. It was very clear that he was void of understanding, and he made a dumb move and followed this fellow. He tried to take a shortcut to wealth rather than getting out there and doing the hard work. How about the temper of the fool? The temper of the fool. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 12 and verse 16. Proverbs 12, verse 16. Micah.
A fool's wrath is presently known, but a prudent man covereth shame.
All right. And then Proverbs 29:11. We'll be jumping around here still. Hannah, go ahead.
A fool uttereth all his mind, but a wise man keepeth it in till afterwards.
All right. So, in Proverbs chapter 12 and verse 16, what's it talking about? The fool's what? The fool's wrath. Okay? And then Proverbs 29:11, what does the fool do?
He tells all his feelings.
Yeah, he uttereth all his mind. How do those two fit together?
He lets it all out.
He lets it all out. Yep, he speaks his mind. What he thinks, he says. Okay? So, what does this tell us about the fool's temper?
It's destructive.
It's destructive. Does he have a lot of self-control?
Not at all.
A fool's wrath is presently known. If he gets upset about something, you better watch out, because he's going to let you know. He's going to tell you all about it. If you upset the fool, you don't have to wait long to find out how he feels, because he's going to tell you. Now, the nice thing about the fool, perhaps, is that he uttereth all his mind. Well, if he despises wisdom and instruction, how much mind does he have to utter? Hopefully not much. But what do we find out about these fools? What have you found out about people who despise wisdom and instruction? They often have a lot of things to say, don't they? Don't always make a lot of sense, but they have a lot of things to say. A fool uttereth all his mind. All right, and then let's see. Let's go to Proverbs 17:10, and then we'll finish up with the fool here. Proverbs 17, verse 10. And enjoy. Nice line.
A reproof entereth more into a wise man than 100 stripes into a fool.
Okay, so what's the comparison here? A reproof entereth more into a wise man than 100 stripes into a fool.
Just a little bit of correction will do more to a wise man than a ton of correction to a fool.
Yeah. You can go to the wise man and you can say, hey, you know what? That really wasn't a very good idea to do that. And the wise man will respond, you know what? You're probably right. I should change what I'm doing. But when you go to the fool and you say to the fool, that really wasn't a very good thing for you to do. And the fool says, huh? Why not? I don't understand it. And then you look at the fool and you say, ding, 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 ding. Hey, dummy! That was dumb! And he says, huh? Why? Why does it say 100 stripes? What's 100 stripes? What's it talking about?
100 lashes with a whip.
100 lashes with a whip. Is this? Are we expecting 100 lashes to be given to this fool? What was the legal limit? 40.
39. Because 40 was what they considered would kill a man, so they did 39 so it wouldn't kill him.
Yeah. 49.
Deuteronomy 25, 2-3. And it shall be, if the wicked man be worthy to be beaten, that the judge shall cause him to lie down and to be beaten before his face, according to his fault, by a certain number. 40 stripes he may give him, and not exceed. Lest, if he should exceed, and beat him above these with many stripes, then thy brother should seem vile unto thee. The point was correction. The point was not destruction. Right? So they limited it to 40 stripes. So when he says 100 stripes to a fool, what's he using?
Infinity, it's not, it could be 1,000 or more.
Okay, so he's using an exaggeration or hyperbole to bring out the extreme difference between the wise man and the fool. The wise man, a simple verbal rebuke is sufficient to get the wise man to say, oh, you are right. I was wrong. I need to change. But the fool, no matter how many times you beat him, he's still going to say, I didn't do anything wrong. That's fine. It's okay. The fool will never learn. Okay? So, why do you suppose a fool would rather look to the ends of the earth to chase get-rich-quick schemes than focus on wisdom, hard work, and moral living? Why would the fool do that? Why would he choose going to the ends of the earth, trying to get rich quick, instead of just simply learning, putting his nose to the grindstone, and living right? Why would he choose that?
Lazy.
He's lazy, okay? He doesn't think he wants to work hard. So he'll go to extreme lengths to not work hard, okay? Somebody else.
He's proud.
He's proud. He's proud. It comes back to the pride thing again. Yeah. So is pride a good thing or a bad thing? It's pretty generally bad. There are some possible uses for a little bit of pride, but generally speaking, the Bible calls pride sin. All right? So this fool, this scorner, one of their key characteristics is their pride. They can't admit that they're wrong. They won't learn from their mistakes. They won't learn from those who are wiser than them because they feel that they are the wisest, even when they're the least wise. All right, so we're going to stop there. Does it seem like it would be pretty futile to follow the path of the fool? That seems kind of silly, doesn't it? You know, this one who has no self-control, he utters his mind, all his mind, he just blurts out what he's thinking instead of considering and keeping it in until afterwards like a wise man. All right, so we are going to stop there and then we will move on next time with the thorny path of folly. All right, let's go to the Lord in prayer as we wrap up our Bible study time here. Lord, we thank you for your word. We ask you, Lord, to help us not be fools. Help us not be mockers and scorners. Lord, show us the pride in our hearts that lead us to that track, that path, and help us to demolish it, Lord. Help us to see our value in you, the value that we have through Jesus Christ, and exercise the humility that you want us to exercise. Lord, help us to be wise. Help us to be teachable. Help us to be people that are willing to receive reproof and rebuke so that we can grow and be more like you. Thank you, Lord, for your word and for the book of Proverbs as we study and learn to be wise. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.